Hello, welcome to the TechHub.training Alteryx Odd Bits Audit Challenge solution. In this challenge, we have a repeat client and we have their trial balance from the previous year, as well as a partial list of transactions and some adjusting entries that we need to make. And we're going to take it all and combine it into one final trial balance for the year. So let's go ahead and dive in and see what that might look like. Alrighty, so first over here we're pulling in the transactions list, and these are my adjusting entries as well, and we're going to union those together and then clean it up a little bit because it was formatted to be visually sort of appealing and understandable in Excel, which doesn't translate well in other programs like Alteryx. So we use this to clean it up a little bit, as well as the select tool. And then what we're going to do here with this summarize tool is collapse all of the transactions down to show the aggregate effects of all the transactions, because, for example, cash is an account we use a lot of, and as you can see here, it's got a debit amount and a credit amount across all those transactions. So we're going to go one step further in this formula tool and calculate this net debit column, and that'll help us know if we need to credit, if we need to debit an account with a positive number, or if we need to credit an account, like with inventory here, with a negative number. And then we join that to the previous trial balance, which has undergone some changes. So let's go ahead and check that out. So this is that partially updated previous trial balance that we have to work with from one of our team members, as we read about in the challenge description. And what we're going to do is take this data and clean it up again a little bit. And then kind of splits down two rows here. So on this road, we're just getting ready to join and filtering out the null accounts to make sure that we're only joining real accounts and that we can join them together. And then down here, down this path, we have this regex tool that we use to parse out the account type ID is what I called it. And we get that out of this account number column. And if you'll notice on the trial balance, as you go through, the assets all start with 1, 0, and the liabilities all start with 2, 0, equity with 3, revenue 4, expenses 5. And so we can use that to know whether we need to debit or credit the accounts and what natural balance they'll have. And so with this regex tool, we create this account type ID, which we can use with this formula tool to create the account type. And then with the select tool, we get it ready for joining again. And here we add both parts of the trial balance together. So it's basically just the regular trial balance, but with this additional information about the account type on the end of it, which we'll use next. So then we go from that join tool and these transactions with the net debit amount into this join tool, and this middle join is the accounts that were in the trial balance that were affected by these transactions. But this right part of the join are the accounts that weren't affected by transactions but still need to be in the trial balance. And so we want to have both of those together, so we'll recombine all that with a union and then replace some of those credit balances with 0 so it looks a little cleaner. But notice we're going to leave that net debit balance. We're going to leave some of those null because all of these were coming out of that right side of that join. So these were the accounts that didn't get affected by transactions, but we still need those on the trial balance. And then here is where we adjust the account balance. So this is where kind of it all boils down to. So we create this final debit balance and final credit balance. And the way we do that is, again, using this is null with the net debit account. So if the net debit balance is null, then we know that we can just leave it as the debit balance that it was originally in the trial balance because it didn't get affected by these transactions. Otherwise, if the account type is asset or expense, we're going to add the net debit balance into the debit balance. And if it's not in that account type, then it's just going to be 0 for the final debit balance. For example, if it's an account that has a natural credit balance. And then here in this final credit balance, we do pretty much the same thing, just opposite. And you'll notice here that with the account type, we did it a couple different ways. So this up here in the final debit balance, we have it in asset or expense. And down here we have if it equals liability or equals equity or equals revenue. And those are two ways to do pretty much the exact same thing, just a couple different syntaxes, and so you can choose which one you prefer. I like this one better, but they're both there. And of course down here we're going to subtract the net debit instead of adding it to this credit balance, because that way we're doing the opposite with the debit. Alright, and then we're going to have another select tool that selects the fields that we want, and then we're going to sort them by account number, so it'll be in the same format as the trial balance was originally, and then export that to an Excel file. So I hope you had a good time with this challenge. One cool thing about it is that if you have more transactions that you want to add, or the next year or whatever, you can just replace the trial balance with the past year's trial balance, and then all transactions you can just put in a list here and drag them into this union, and it'll update the trial balance. So once you have this flow in place, it might be kind of time intensive up front, but then it just makes everything super fast after that. So I hope you got some value out of this. This is something that professionals do use in audit teams. And so feel free to let us know how you did, what you liked about it, and be sure to post your solution on the TechHub.training website, and we'll see you next time.